Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? June 28th. But are we saying it yet? Jared Chavis is live in studio. We're going to start the show with him because he's important. Plus, in Brooklyn, we're putting the band back together. Kyrie Irving is back, what it means for the future odds of the Nets. And we'll dish out some John Deere picks. Yeah, that's right. The field is weak, but the picks are strong. Buckle up, baby. You're watching the sweat. The takeoff, a tradition, unlike any other, baby. Happy Say It Day. Or is it happy? Jared Chavis, how are we feeling today?
Feeling great. I mean, yeah, the Red Sox lost last night. They got smoked, but we're still going to say it today. Okay. I don't know if we're going to say it right now.
Okay, I was going to say, is this breaking news?
I don't know. I mean, it's June 28th.
Yeah.
And the whole concept was, and Yankee fans tried to hijack this day, and we're not going to let that happen, are we, Emerson?
No,
we're not going to let that happen.
Absolutely not.
They tried to make it about them. It's not about them. June 28th was never, by June 28th, the Red Sox are going to catch the Yankees. No, that's not what this day is about. This day is about the Red Sox. At the time, they were like 9 games under 500. All I said was by June 28th, this team is going to have a winning record. Do they have a winning record, Emerson?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They're 19-5 in the month of June here.
Yeah.
They've won 7 straight series, and they hold the top wild card spot in the AL. So, when will we say it today?
You know what? We're doing a stream tonight, and I feel like that's as good of an opportunity as ever to just say it. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Jake will be there. I tried to invite some special guests.
Jake always looks like he's sleeping next to you.
Of course. Do you want to come by?
Actually, I would.
I would love if you came by.
I'll come by. I can bring you dinner, seriously.
That'd be great.
Okay.
What are you going to bring me?
Whatever snacks we have in the kitchen.
Okay.
Shove them in my book
There's
bag.
a lot of food here.
There is a lot of food here.
Yeah.
Listen, you nailed it. They were 9 games under 500 at one point. They were 11-20, but then they flipped the switch here and went 31-12. This turnaround, who is the one guy you are giving the most credit for? Most credit to for this turnaround?
That would be Alex Cora. Yeah. So I think besides Terry Francona, obviously a great manager, but if you look at the Bobby Valentine season, we actually went back and looked at that kind of recently. People forget, that year, the Red Sox lost 93 games, I want to say. They still had a winning record in August. That thing fell apart quick.
Yep.
So when things start to look like they're going to fall apart, you look to the leader in the clubhouse, a guy like Xander Bogaerts, but that tone gets set with a guy like Alex Cora. And being around him, learning from him, talking to him on a daily basis, you kind of get that vibe from him where even right now, even when they swept the Guardians the other day,
yeah.
And they're like, hey, we're cruising. We just won 7 straight games. We just won 7 straight series. We're sole possession of the top wild card spot, sole possession of second place in the division. You look at him. Is he excited? Is he happy? No, he had the same demeanor as when they were 9 games under 500. He does not get too high on highs and not too low on low. It's a very Bill Belichickian approach to it. And I would say Bill Belichick, a lot of success doing what he does.
All right, so how does he get his guys, though? The season's been turned around. But how does he get his guys to actually turn things around in the division? Because that's the only place for now where they're really struggling, 7-15 versus the AL East. Those are important games.
100%. And I think it doesn't look good that, you have this big turnaround, and then the first game that you play against an AL East opponent, you get smoked. But it's just one game. It's just one game, and you would argue that pretty much all of the AL East games that they've played were in April, and it's not the same team. They have a different team right now. We'll see how the rest of the series goes against Toronto. They still have Alek Manoah in the last game, which don't love that matchup. But you have Nick Pivetta going in that game. So it's you've got one of your best against one of their best. We'll see what happens. I don't want to take too much out of this one series against the Jays, especially when we haven't had that one-run situation. But because of the COVID restrictions in Canada. You don't have your closer. You don't have your leadoff hitter. And because of injuries, you don't have your starting center fielder. So I'm not going to take too much out of this, but this is when they need to prove it between now and the All-Star break.
Yeah, the Jays have kind of owned them this season because the Sox have lost 6 of 8 to Toronto. There's a lot else. There's a lot of other news going down, like around the majors. I mean, it was like everyone, and even the freaking interpreter was suspended. In the brawl between the Mariners and the Angels, you see these beefy dudes just beating the hell out of each other. What's going through your mind there as you're sitting in your house with 40 TVs?
So, if you have to go back to the game prior.
Yeah, that's right. The whole Mike Trout.
Mike Trout gets thrown at, and what I didn't love, because I want to love Mike Trout. I'm neutral Mike Trout. I don't dislike him. I don't love him. I don't tune in for him. I tune in for Shohei. I love Shohei. But with Mike Trout, it's all right, man, I understand you're frustrated that they came. His whole quote after the game was, if you can't pitch inside, then don't pitch inside. Yep. Because Seattle, Mike Trout, I believe, has the most home runs against the Mariners of any player ever. He's that good. He just destroys them. So he's getting these fastballs up and in, and he's like, hey, if you're going to throw at me, then hit me in the ribs. I don't think that they were trying to hit Mike Trout in the face and missing. I don't know. That's just how I felt about it. I didn't love that that's what the assumption was.
I don't think you intentionally try to ever do that.
No, especially for doing well. There are guys that will throw at your head, but it's because you did something wrong. Manny Machado, the Red Sox threw at his head because he ended Dustin Pedroia's career. You don't throw at Mike Trout's head just because he's hitting homers. You may want to make him uncomfortable. You may want to pitch inside and back him off the plate so that he's not squaring up every single fastball that he sees. But you're not throwing at a guy's head or a guy's face for doing well. So when a guy like Trout, who his word is bond, implies or suggests they threw at my face, well, guess what? Now if you're one of Mike Trout's teammates, we have to protect the best player on planet Earth. So the first inning, they have an opener. Because you figure, all right, we're not going to waste a starter on this. We have an opener, so we throw at the first guy. They missed, and then Winker comes up in the second. They drill him. It was 91, and it was in the leg, so it's not a big deal. But Winker has every right to be like, what the hell? What are you throwing at me for? We didn't throw at you. Why are you throwing at me? I get it. That's baseball, and it happens, especially because they've played each other a lot this year so far. We're not even at the All-Star break. They've played each other 10 times or whatever it is. So that stuff like that's going to happen. But for a guy like Mike Trout, I need him to be a little bit better, have a little bit better discretion in that situation.
Am I an evil person for liking brawls in baseball and thinking they are good for the sport? I'm thinking they're exciting. They rile up the fan bases, the teams, and what do you think?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I would love more brawls, but then let them brawl.
Yeah.
When you have.
They brawled pretty damn good over the weekend.
They did, but it's if I want to punch you in the face, there shouldn't be two dudes right here. If I have a problem with you, you have a problem with me, they should be able to fight in hockey. Just let them fight. How ridiculous does a baseball fight look when in this situation, because in different ballparks, the bullpens are in different areas, you have the Angels and Mariners relievers running out of the bullpen side by side. It's hey, you're running next to the guy that you might punch
over
there. You're running 100 yards to punch a guy in the face that might be standing next to you right now.
Should they start their own brawl out there?
Yes.
Yeah,
why
there
not?
you go.
Yeah. If that's how it works in hockey, it's all right, yeah, you want to fight? Yeah, drop gloves. They have a discussion beforehand, let's rally the boys here. Let's get the boys fired up, drop your gloves. It's a discussion. It's not a actual street fight where they're, it's an altercation. It's if you want to fight, let's fight.
I just think it gets people talking, rivalries are formed. If you could pick any Major League Baseball player right now to fight by your side in a brawl, who are you taking?
Tommy Pham.
I knew it. I knew you were going to do that because weeks ago we were talking about the slap and the Reds were in town to face the Red Sox. You're I'm not going to say anything negative about Tommy Pham because he's in town and he will find me and he will slap me at the ballpark.
Correct. You could go.
But can he punch? We know he can slap.
Oh, yes. This dude got stabbed, and he was just what an inconvenience this was. So I need a guy that's tough, that's Tommy Pham, and I need a guy that's not scared. You might look around the league, there might be some of these larger-sized human beings, but can they fight? Can they throw a punch? Are they scared? Are they too much of a peacemaker? You might have a guy like Luke Voigt where it's hey, man, I just had a baby. I got my wife at home. I'm not trying to get in the mix here. You know, he might not be a great guy to have by your side in a ball brawl, but you look at Tommy Pham, not scared.
Yeah. You know, Odor can punch. We've seen that before.
100%, yeah. But he's a little dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter like what size you are. You could still pack a punch.
I think for that situation, he benefited from the element of surprise.
Yeah,
I don't think
true.
Batista thought he was about to eat Knuckles in that situation.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. This is called the takeoff. Like, this is all about your hot take to kind of end the segment. So what do you got this week? I know before the show you were saying, I don't really know if I got much.
It hit me after a discussion that we had off the air.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I don't know if I want to say this.
Say it, dude.
I don't know. There's something that I want to say, but I feel like it's going to get used against me if I say it.
Just say it.
You want me to say it here?
I would like you to say it.
Which camera are you on? Are we on this one?
Look at that one right over there.
The New York Yankees are going to break the single-season wins record.
Oh.
I can hear screaming from beyond the walls.
Yeah, you can hear people screaming.
People are
in the
screaming
control room,
outside.
on the other side of this wall.
The New York Yankees are going to pass the Seattle Mariners' 116 win total. They're that good.
This roller coaster relationship that you have again with the
I'm
Yankees
unbiased.
and the
I'm
Yankees
unbiased.
fans.
They want to say that I'm not. I've given every indication that I am unbiased.
After they tried to hijack June 28th, you're taking the higher ground here. You're being the better man and saying, hey, listen, I believe in you.
Yeah, I do. And you know, you saw that series against the Houston Astros, which they split, but I believe it was like...
I mean, they were no hit at one point.
They were no hit.
Which is kind of crazy with how damn good that offense is.
I want to say it was the lowest team batting average in a 4-game series for an American League team to ever split a series. Yeah. So even when they're bad, they're good.
Yeah.
You know, like they're playing the Oakland A's. Oakland A's, sorry Dallas, not a real baseball team, but they're winning 5-1, and you're just sitting there thinking, all right, when's the comeback?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even surprised by it. They ended up, it was like 8 unanswered runs. They ended up winning that game like 9-5 or something like that.
All right, so you expect them to set the record, but what does it mean when it comes to the postseason? Because I believe the Mariners that you're lost in the first round.
They sure did. They sure did. And
So-
I never made any predictions beyond the regular season, Emerson.
Okay.
You know?
I know that.
Like, I feel like...
This team, though, would
Mm-hmm.
you expect them to actually make it past the first round, unlike the Mariners that year?
I got to know who they're playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All
like,
right.
that's just a pro move
Fair
right
enough.
there. I mean, I think it would be irresponsible for me to say that they would lose in the first round.
You're
if
one
I
of the
don't
most
know who they're
responsible
playing.
people I know.
Have to be responsible in this situation, so I think that that's the road that we're going to take here. But, I mean, when we're ready to break down the playoffs, I'm going to be sitting right here.
Yeah, you are.
And when they're playing maybe the Red Sox. I don't know. I don't know who they're going to play.
Man, who knows?
Could be the Red Sox. Could be, I don't know. It could be the Guardians. Could be the Rays. I don't know. But when we figure that out, then we'll talk about
All right, so you got the stream tonight. It's on the DraftKings like YouTube and Twitch channels, right?
Yep.
And then anything else you want to tease for your podcasts right now? This is your opportunity to do it.
I mean,
Just anything. I know
you know what I'm going to tease?
What?
When we say it, we may have a little special video. I think we have a special video that we
Billy
shot.
behind the camera, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, Billy
you're
shot
supposed
the
to move
video.
the camera, nodding.
Yeah, there you go.
And you also are, all of a sudden you have swag too available on DraftKings.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have
This is-
Baseball is Dead merch. We have June 28th merch. I wish I had a name for my other podcast. We don't right now, but when we have that name, that merch is going to be sick too. But for right now, Baseball is Dead merch looks awesome.
All right, dude. Your job here is done. Steve and Gary are actually going to be joining us coming up in the show to dish out some DFS picks on the diamond. But first, we got some best bets for the John Deere Classic coming up right after this break. The takeoff! All right, let's turn our attention now to dudes who can roll a good meatball. Listen, a lot of the top golfers coming off this like extended run of playing like majors, other tournaments, and a lot of them are going to head to Scotland next week for the Scottish Open. So the John Deere Classic really offers that like desirable kind of rest week for a lot of the bigger names. The field this week, it's weaker, yes. However, these weeks typically benefit those who are well prepared and well researched, which is why we're bringing in DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and the Action Network's Jason Sobel to help you with odds on the DK Sportsbook. Jason, this field isn't exactly star-studded. I've seen you writing about it there for the Action Network. So why is that?
It's just the place in the schedule, Emerson. I mean, it's stuck between, okay, we had the U.S. Open. A lot of really good players went to the Travelers Championship last week. Next week, we've got the Scottish Open, which is now co-sanctioned on the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, which, by the way, there's a press conference later this afternoon. Jay Monahan, Keith Pelley of the DP World Tour. I don't know what's happening, but something big is happening very shortly between those two circuits. So, in any case, the Scottish Open next week leads right into the Open Championship. A lot of the top players are doing that. And it just kind of falls by the wayside a little bit, and we're left with a field that, quite frankly, if you weren't betting on it, you might not watch it. But this is why we bet on sports, to keep us interested throughout the entire weekend. All
right, Jeff, is Adam Hadwin a deserving favorite here this week, plus 1,000?
Probably, and that speaks to the affairs of this event. I mean, there's no top 50 players in the world here. I believe Webb Simpson is the highest ranked at 58. He moved up to 58 last week. So, yeah, look, I don't know, man. Like, I actually think that this event has actually suffered. You know, it always used to be a weaker field anyways when it was right before the Open Championship. But then they used to have that, like, John Deere plane where they just, like, ferry over the players and they'd have, like, a big private party on the way to the Open Championship. They can't even do that now because it's 2 weeks prior. So this event, it's kind of sad because, like, the course is fun. They you know, it's got the tractors everywhere. But there's really no reason for the top players to play this week because they all have to go over to Scotland for the tune-up event next week anyways. And, you know, like you're just basically going to jet lag yourself if you stay back and play the John Deere Classic. So it's just an unfortunate place on the schedule. It's always kind of been like that for this event. It just seems even heightened this year. And then, you know, you add into the fact we've actually lost some players from the PGA Tour lately, which makes the field even a little less deeper than normal. Yeah, Adam Hadwin plus 1,000. I guess he's the deserving favorite. Yeah. Never thought I'd hear those words come out of my mouth talking about a PGA Tour event.
Hey, Jason, do you agree with him being the favorite here? He's well rested from that T7 at the U.S. Open.
Sure, yeah. Look, your traders know what they're doing. Webb Simpson had a nice week last week. As Jeff said, he's the highest-ranked player in the field. Adam Hadwin's been playing well. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Between those two players, it gets dark in a hurry, though. When Jason Day, I believe, is number 3 on the odds board right now, when Jason Day is that high, there aren't a whole lot of options out there, really.
All right, yeah, Jason Day plus 3,500 now. So, guys, we could look back to like last weekend too, and I know that was a fairly devastating loss for Sahith Theegala at the Travelers. That was that double bogey on 18 that cost him the victory. He's right back in the field this week, though, for the John Deere. So what's a bet you like with him this week, Jason?
I'll go a little conservative on Sahith. And look, I am a massive Sahith Theegala fan. I have been essentially on him almost every single week he's been playing this year. The issue here, and it can go one of two ways. The issue is that he now has 3 top 10s. He had 3 top 10s coming into this past week. In each of those instances, he played the following week and never finished inside the top 20 the following week. So it's shown that he's not one of these guys that, at least at this young stage in his career, can build on the momentum from challenging the week before. That said, he is going to show up at TBC Deer Run this week, look around on the range and go, well, I'm pretty much the best player here. So, yeah, I should be able to beat all these guys. And so, look, I'm kind of, torn between, do I want to go all in on Sahith or do I want to just totally fade him and stay away? And so I'll probably be somewhere in the middle, conservative, like a top 10, top 20 play, but I won't go too deep on him just based on the fact that we haven't seen really a good 2-week stretch from him yet in his career.
Yeah, Jeff, do you take more of a conservative approach here? Or maybe for some people he's a fade because of possibly where he's at mentally after that loss.
I mean, I'm like, it's one of those things. I too kind of just want to fade him because how do you recover that quickly from that devastating a loss? And this is a second kind of devastating loss. Like, let's not forget, he had the lead down the stretch in Phoenix too. And, but the thing is, you look at this range, he's plus 2,500 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Who else would you rather bet there? I would rather, like Jason alluded to, he's probably the most talented player in this field, if not like one of the top three, right? So I think the odds you're getting are pretty fair. I'm probably going to sprinkle a little bit on the outright for him because one thing we do see, and yes, he's young and he's inconsistent, but we do see sometimes players, they kind of just blow up a little bit or they just don't quite get there one week, but they take that momentum and sometimes they just break through right away. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And I think Theegala, looking at this weaker field, I think this could be a spot where, he just kind of bounces back and it's just like, okay, I can do this again because there's no one here to stop me. There's no Xander Schauffele in this field. I'm just going to rack up the birdies. It's a bit of a thin play, but again, I just don't know who else you look to at this number. Like Bezaden, who I like, but he's plus 2,000. That's way too short. You could go up to Nick Hardy, I guess, or someone like that. But yeah, I might sprinkle a little bit on Theegala. I think at the very least, it's worth getting a little bit of exposure to this week.
All right, Jeff. Well, Lucas Glover's the returning champion here. His odds are now down to plus 4,000. So looking at this mid-tier group, plus 4,000, between that and plus 6,000 here, who do you have your eye on?
So I do like Patrick Rodgers at plus 3,500. That's a player I'm willing to get in on. Again, we're waiting for the win. He's got some veteran experience. He's played this course. Much like Lucas Glover, he's played this course a lot. He's had some close calls here before. Now he's playing some of the best golf of his career, coming off a T31 at the U.S. Open. I believe that tied for his career best there. So Rodgers is a player I'm in on, but you can certainly look further down the board. I think John Huh at plus 4,500. He's a former winner. This kind of course just sets up so perfectly for him. You look at proximity stats, what John Huh has been doing. His tee to green game has been really good. His gaining strokes around the green. His approach game is the strongest part of his game. His gaining strokes off the tee. He is hitting a ton of fairways, which is exactly what you need to do at TPC Deer Run. Just get the ball in play, and you're going to have a birdie chance on almost every hole. So John Huh is a player at plus 4,500. I'm actually pretty intrigued by. Do I wish this was plus 6,500? Sure, but again, it comes down to the field. Who else are you betting here? Poston, can his putter get hot again? Cam Davis, I just don't trust enough to make not a double bogey every single round. So I think John Huh is actually a very much like a Lucas Glover-esque player that you could target this year because he's veteran. He's playing some of the best golf right now, and if his putter gets hot, he's probably going to be there on Sunday. Yeah,
22nd on tour in driving accuracy there, Jeff, and he's turned that skill into three straight top 25s.
Almost as good as me is finding fairways.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true. You out there in your Crocs and your tube socks. Jason, who do you like mid-tier? So between plus 4,000, plus 6,000.
Yeah, I've got a play that I really like. I know you're going to ask for our favorite outright at the end of this segment, so I'm going to hold off on that one who's in this range, but I agree with Jeff on Patrick Rodgers, a Midwest guy, grew up in Indiana, should feel right at home. He was runner-up at this event just a few years ago, and he's been playing some of the better golf of his career. I've been waiting close to a decade for Patrick Rodgers to sort of break through. He's one of these class of 2011 guys like Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Daniel Berger. He was as good, if not better, than any of those guys as a junior player, as an amateur player, hasn't quite made it as a PGA Tour player. I sort of see him a little bit like a Luke List, who kind of blossoms later in his career, and I think that could be happening. Not like he's an old man right now, but I think later in his career, second half of his career, he could be better than he was in the first half. Ches Reavie is a guy who's gotten better with age, really. He's a guy that keeps it in the fairway, hits a lot of greens in regulation, has that nice intersection of recent form. He was 8th place at the Travelers Championship last week, plus course history. He's played well at the John Deere over the years, a really good course fit for him. And then Denny McCarthy, who I back last week, I was a little hesitant to do it. He had challenged for the title at the U.S. Open the previous week. I didn't like most of the guys who had been in the mix for 4 rounds at Brookline, but I took a chance on Denny McCarthy. Missed the cut in Connecticut, but I almost like him better this week because of it. Back on bent grass greens, one of the best putters in the world, if not the best. All he's got to do, we often say this about a lot of ball strikers, if they only hit the ball, if they hit the ball great, like they usually do, if they just putt average, they can contend for titles. Denny's almost the exact opposite. Denny is hit the ball just a little above average, putt the way you usually do, and you have a chance of contending and even winning a tournament. I like Denny McCarthy this week because of that.
All right, guys. Well, we are tight on time, so let's go ahead and just go straight to your pick to win, your favorite outright. Keep in mind, 5 of the last 10 winners here have been first-time tour winners. So, Jason, you just said you like someone in that mid-tier range. Who is it?
I'm chasing history this week, Emerson. The oldest player to ever win a PGA Tour event was Sam Snead at the age of 52. Steve Stricker won this event 3 times. It's a hometown event for him. He loves it there. They love him there. He's 55 years old. Straight off a runner-up finish at the U.S. Senior Open. He's 70-1 in the DK Sportsbook. I love that number this week. He can absolutely get it done against this field.
Dude, he makes like every cut here, too. Jeff, hook me up, dude.
I'm picking a 55-year-old. It's actually perfect for this event, though. Like, I can't even make fun of it. It's perfect for what we've got this week. I almost feel like making Bill Haas my pick because he was going to be my long shot. That's the kind of player I think you could see show up. Bill Haas is a plus 16,000. I'm going to go with Patrick Rogers, a plus 3,500. A little bit more conservative. I just think Rogers is due for a breakout, and he's playing some of the most consistent golf of his career right now.
All right, you two are fantastic. Appreciate all the help. We're going to go ahead and just go straight to the NBA now because there's been news and notes pouring in from all over the place. DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, good morning. It's good to have you here, buddy. So the drama surrounding Kyrie Irving and the Nets, at least for now, has been resolved, right? According to Woj, the Nets are putting the band back together here, and Kyrie's going to exercise his $37 million player option. What are the chances you think he plays all of next season in Brooklyn?
You mean like as a member of the Nets without getting traded, or just coming up with his own excuses to find a way to sit out?
Yeah, go ahead and just tell me. I have a feeling you have a strong opinion on this based off your tweets, too.
Yeah, I mean, he could be traded in season. I can tell you this, like, he wanted out, so it's clear he wanted out. He basically, I mean, his process was look for different ways to get out. He got permission to seek a sign and trade, and he had zero market across the NBA. So then he dared to be different and accepted $36 million to return to the team that he's on and play alongside Kevin Durant. Just like Russell Westbrook just dared to be different, right as the show was starting, and accepted $47 million to play with LeBron James next year. Kyrie really started a trend here. He's gonna be on the Nets. He's gonna start the year there. He didn't want to be there. He has some issues with Kevin Durant. He has some issues with Steve Nash. He has some issues in general. So he's gonna I don't know. He doesn't want to be there, so this is gonna go terribly. The Nets are an awful bet in any futures fashion. They were awful this past year, and they're going to be poor again in one way or another, whether it's demanding a trade, actually getting traded, or just coming up with an excuse. Kyrie Irving eventually won't be on the floor for the Brooklyn Nets next season.
I mean, a true American hero. There's nothing like leading us into tomorrow by signing a player option for $37 million. Like, good for him. What does this mean, though, for Kevin Durant, Jules? What do you think? You think it's a no-brainer he's coming back now?
I don't think it means anything quite yet. We'll see how bad the relationship with Kyrie actually is right now. Like, maybe Kevin Durant can demand a trade, but then what do? Then you have to start to look to trade Kyrie as well, and we know that he has no market at this current price. What would have been daring to be different? It sounds like the only offer Kyrie had on the table was to completely opt out and then sign for $6 million with the Lakers for the mid-level exception. Taking a $30 million pay cut would have been daring to be different. So maybe something comes about with the Lakers eventually. They can swap Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook. Like, that could happen at some point in time. Funny trade. You reunite LeBron and Kyrie. You reunite Westbrook and Durant. And probably something will go wrong with both duos again, and they'll break up for the second time. But in terms of Durant, I think that the Nets are going to try to keep him. You have to try and keep him. But at some point in time, when things go bad with Kyrie, that's when we're going to find out, like, all right, is this team going to find a path where it can build around Durant and get rid of Kyrie? Or are both of them going to have to go and it goes into a full rebuild? And that's going to be up to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant kind of feeling things out as the season goes on. But there is going to be a bump in the road where things go wrong. Yeah, well, Jules, it's interesting now because the Nets are plus 700 on the DK Sportsbook to win the championship, which is the fourth best odds available right now behind the Clippers, Warriors, Celtics, and the Bucks. How much would you consider Brooklyn at this number? Zero consideration. They're an awful bet. And you see them with like the guys returning. They went from 600, I believe, to 850, and now they're back down to 700 because indications are that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving will be on the team. I don't know if they're going to try and I doubt they finish the season with a healthy and bought in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on that roster. So I think they're an awful bet. I think that they help give us better odds on the rest of the teams atop of the board. The issue is it's just still so early. Like, you don't need to bet an NBA champion right now. It's fun to follow the odds, but let's see where some of these pieces fall. I know the Clippers getting John Wall, who hasn't played in 2 years, moved them from plus 600 to plus 550. John Wall is probably a bench player at this point in time. We can talk about him next, but like the odds movement that we're getting at this point in the NBA, just let it fall where it may, and let's see how things shake out, and we can bet on title contenders later.
I mean, what kind of impact do you expect Wall to have with the Clippers? His last full season, which is was that like 3 seasons ago or something like that? He did average north of 23 points per game, more than 4 rebounds a game, and north of 10 assists.
Yeah, he can put up numbers. He obviously had the ball in his hands a lot in Washington, and once he left, that's when Bradley Beal kind of evolved into the player that he is now. Do you want John Wall taking touches away from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? I don't. So I think he's either going to fit as kind of like a 24-minute a game starting point guard that doesn't do nearly what he used to do, or I could easily see him coming off the bench behind a Reggie Jackson type guy that's already been a really good fit and had playoff success with the Clippers. So John Wall doesn't move the needle for me at all. Nice signing as a role player. He can help. We'll see if he stays healthy. We'll see if the chemistry is there with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But yeah, really doesn't move the needle for me. And John Wall is going to make $84 million this season and last season from the Houston Rockets to play 0 games for them without being injured.
Well, before you take off, this is the first time we've talked to you since the NBA draft. So looking at Rookie of the Year odds on the DK Sportsbook, Orlando's number 1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero, is the favorite now at plus 300. But you can see the numbers on your screen. The top 4 guys, all pretty close in odds. So who stands out to you as a potential bet?
Yeah, unlike the chalk at the top of the board for, betting NBA championship odds, I think the chalk at the top of the Rookie of the Year board is pretty good, and it starts with Banchero for me, who that didn't move just because he was selected number 1. We had those odds up at DraftKings before the draft, and Banchero was the plus 300 favorite, and that's where I would go. He's going to have a lot of freedom to operate in Orlando. He's going to be the key to that offense, and he's going to get big minutes. He's a pretty good passer. He showed that at Duke, and has some good guard play around him in Suggs and Cole Anthony, so I think Banchero, just in terms of workload, is going to see the most. He's the most polished. He's the most NBA-ready scorer. I think Jabari Smith was the best prospect in the draft. He has a chance at plus 350 playing alongside Jalen Green with the Rockets. That'll be exciting. But I think in terms of who's ready right away, that's going to be Banchero for me. I like Jaden Ivey a lot going to the Pistons right behind them at plus 450. But the ball is going to be in Cade Cunningham's hands a lot there. I think he's due to break out in his sophomore season there. So I'm eating the chalk at the top there with Banchero. I think he has a chance to be like a 25-3 kind of guy in his rookie season. Yeah,
and he could have a new team owner soon, as Shaq says he is ready to buy the Magic. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Jules, your time here is done. Don't forget to text me back. Steve and Garion deliver their DFS picks on the Diamond after this. All right, it is time now to bring in DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne and Steve Buchanan. You guys and gals know what we like to do with these two on a Tuesday. It's a thorn in my side. Looking back at last week, so you two actually tied on correct picks. However, the tiebreaker is total fantasy points. So Steve takes the victory, moves ahead in the series, best of 7, 3-2. Steve, I know how good this has to feel for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just making up rules as it goes along just to make this entertaining for television. And that's okay because the world needs some more entertainment.
That's right. Actually, producer Slate just got me here and said you are correct. We just like to make up rules as we go along. Gary, in this segment bears your name here. Hook us up with your favorite plays on the MLB slate. And then we're going to find out here if Steve agrees or pivots. These are huge picks for you because, again, if he wins this week, he wins the series. So hook me up with your favorite pitcher tonight, dude.
Yeah, do want to note, I think I'm going to adjust my strategy this week and try to pick players who are going to be in the lineup tonight. That was a big weakness I had last week. So I'm gonna try to shake that off. It was a weird strategy on my part, picking guys who didn't play. But we try things. We live and we learn. Carlos Rodon, pretty sure he's going to start tonight. I think every pitcher in baseball would want to start when the Detroit Tigers are on the schedule. He's expensive. He's $10,400, but I think he's going to be worth every single penny tonight. Not only has Rodon been fantastic in the month of June, he's got a 1.20 ERA, a 1.90 FIP in his last 5 starts. But the Tigers are pitiful. Yes, they have been better against left-handed pitchers than right-handed pitchers, but they don't even hit lefties at a league average rate, so I'm really not worried about the split stuff with the Tigers. What I do want to note is they have the worst WRC plus in baseball, and in the month of June, they have the lowest isolated power in all of baseball. Carlos Rodon is one of 5 qualified pitchers, striking out more than 30% of his opponents so far this season. Really, for me, the debate on this slate starts with your SP2, because your SP1 has to be Carlos Rodon.
Dude, I'm looking at last week's standings once again. Paul Goldschmidt, who didn't play, still scored more than your pitcher who did play because your pitcher ended with negative points.
Yeah.
That's talent.
Spencer Strider didn't have my best interest at heart. I'll say that.
Steve, who's your pitcher tonight, dude?
I mean, you look at the pitching list. I mean, I think you can figure out who I'm going to pick. I mean, why would I not pick the most handsome guy on this slate and Robbie Ray going against the Baltimore Orioles? Already faced them once already. Didn't have a great start. That's okay. You know why? Because Robbie Ray has been so much better in Seattle than he's been on the road. And this is an Orioles team that is second in K rate against lefties. Robbie Ray throws about 20 strikeouts per game. You just don't see a lot of them. But that's usually the number that he's at. Going against this Baltimore team that's going to strike out a lot, they have some really bad numbers against lefties across the board, which is puzzling because historically, this team has been very good against lefties, but that just hasn't come to fruition, and we're almost in the month of July. So Robbie Ray, who's having his best month of the season thus far, his ERA for the month is hanging at about 2.7, striking out a ton of batters, and he's going to be our guy tonight. And we're going to go on to victory, which means I have a lot more work to do, which is really unfortunate. I've been enjoying carrying the brunt of this segment, but I guess I got to start taking over next week.
Yeah, so you're no longer tanking, is what you're telling me.
That's correct. We tank for a couple weeks, extend the segment, but I mean, we got to wrap it up. I just got to take it.
Next up, Gare Bear, infielder. Talk to me.
Gonna go with Corey Seeger, who's $5,600 tonight. Seeger, I feel like Steve and I always bring a new candidate to the table every week in terms of guy who has just been the unluckiest player in baseball so far this season. Seeger really has a case. He's got a 74-point disparity between his actual WOBA and his expected WOBA. It's the 4th largest mark of any qualified player in baseball. He's really been hitting the ball well. He's 88th percentile expected WOBA. He's 89th percentile expected slugging percentage, but the numbers really haven't been there in real life so far this season, despite the fact he's got 15 home runs. But I think tonight is the night that starts to turn around against Jonathan Heasley of the Royals. This guy hates facing left-handed batters. He is terrified, or should be terrified, of facing left-handed batters. 3.32 home runs per 9 to lefties so far this season, a 4.13 WOBA within the split. Seager's one of the better left-handed batters in the American League. I think he takes advantage of this matchup tonight.
All right, Steve, 15 games on this main slate, dude. Tons of guys to choose from. Who do you like as an infielder?
Very excited. I was looking through the list of pitchers going tonight. I see Patrick Corbin. I get all excited. Money is to be made tonight. And then I saw it's against the Pirates, and I was like, well, the range of emotions I had in a matter of 15 seconds was unbelievable. And I wasn't even watching a game. I was just looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook. But then I said, you know what? There are some hitters on the Pirates that can do well against the lefty Patrick Corbin. I mean, everybody should, quite frankly. But Brian Hayes going against Corbin is probably one of the best infielder spots that you can do tonight. The numbers for Hayes against lefties are so vastly different than they are against righties. The numbers that he's put up so far have been very impressive in this spot. Against lefties, he has a 384 WOBA, 148 WRC plus, and a 170 isolated power. This has been the matchup that you want to focus on. And then Patrick Corbin is just, of course, been an absolute disaster on the mound. If he's pitching for any other team that's not the Nationals, he's probably gone, right? His ERA over 6 for the month. It's been that way almost every single month so far this season. But 19 runs allowed in just 19 innings. He's averaging about a run an inning. Why? How does that happen? You're a starter in Major League Baseball. What's happening? Whatever. Brian Hayes, that's your guy tonight.
Gary, and as we go to the outfield, looking at the numbers here, the prices on DraftKings, 5 dudes will cost you at least $6,000. How pricey are you going here?
So one of those guys is Yordan Alvarez, who's in a fantastic spot tonight, but I will take the cheaper left-handed option on the Astros, which is Kyle Tucker, who's sort of quietly been having, I don't want to say just as good a month of June, because I don't think anyone on the planet is having as good a June as Yordan Alvarez. But Kyle Tucker's been kind of lost in the sauce because of how good his teammate has been. He's got a 172 WRC plus, a 284 isolated power going back to June 1st. And this is someone who also has 14 stolen bases for the season. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if you look down tonight at the box score and go, oh, Kyle Tucker even stole a base. I thought he just hit a home run off of Carlos Carrasco, who's been really struggling as of late. I'm actually surprised he's going to make this start. He had to leave his last start against this same Astros team with back spasms. He's going to make this one today, but he's got a 5.81 ERA in his last 6 outings. So he's been struggling. He's probably not feeling 100%. And the Astros just saw him 6 days ago. I think Kyle Tucker and the rest of this Houston lineup have a big night tonight against Carlos Carrasco.
Steve, what direction are you going in the outfield?
Yeah, so Charlie Morton is taking the mound for the Braves tonight. I don't necessarily see that as a good thing, but it's a good thing for us because we can stack against him. Kyle Schwarber has been on a power outburst during the month of June. Now, this is very typical of Kyle Schwarber. He goes through these extreme peaks and valleys, but when he's at his peak, which he is this month, you absolutely want to grab a piece of him. 10 home runs this month through 24 games. An unbelievable 342 an unbelievable 448 WOBA this month. He's been absolutely crushing it, going against Charlie Morton, who really hasn't done well against either side of the plate, but lefties specifically have been really hitting him hard. This Phillies lineup as a whole has a few lefties that he's going to have to deal with, but Kyle Schwarber, usually batting leadoff for them, is going to be a thorn in his side, no pun intended because of the name, but that is going to be something that he's going to have to worry about right off the bat here. So give me Schwarber, who's on one of his unbelievable hot streaks, just absolutely mashing the ball at this point. I think he's one of the better outfielders you can take, and not all that expensive either.
All right, guys, need you to speed up just a little bit on these last two. So, Gary, in your value play tonight.
I'm going to go with Michael Chavis. Steve already talked about the struggles of Patrick Corbin, so I really won't lament those. But Chavis, I don't know why this guy is the bare minimum. $2,000 tonight. He hits third every time the Pirates face a left-handed pitcher. The reason he does that, he's hitting 300 with a 142 WRC plus against Southpaws so far this season. Chavis is like highway robbery tonight at just $2K.
All right, the former Boston Ice Horse, Steve.
Indeed. Gavin Sheets, since he's been called back up to the White Sox, has been hitting extremely well. In the month of June, since he's been called back up, 12 games, 9 hits total, 5 of them for extra bases. He's been extremely well at the plate. The lefty going tonight, I think he's a great play. Only 2,100 tonight, I believe he is. Way too cheap, especially hitting in this prime spot in this White Sox lineup.
And then the final question I have for you, Gary, and for this Thorn in My Side segment, your bet that you are targeting, your baseball bet you're targeting on the DK Sportsbook.
Going to take the Padres on the money line. I do respect Zach Gallen. He's having a fantastic season, but the Diamondbacks just cannot hit left-handed pitching. They're terrible against lefties. Sean Manaea has been pretty good 3 of his last 4 starts. I'll just take the Padres on the money line.
Steve, what's your favorite bet?
Cardinals going over 4.5 runs tonight against Braxton Garrett, a lefty going against the Cardinals. Not usually something you want to see. 4.5 runs. Paul Goldschmidt might knock all those in himself with the way that he's been hitting right now. Over 4.5 runs, -110. I expect this to be at 5.5. Pleasantly surprised to see 4.5. Give me the over on that number.
Yeah, as long as Paul Goldschmidt is in the lineup, right, Steve? Like we learned last week.
I don't care. I don't care. They're gonna match Garrett anyways, but it would be nice if Goldschmidt's in there, Gary.
All right, dudes. Adios. One more block to go. Pierce and Reed are putting a fantasy spin on the latest NFL headlines. It's time to put a fantasy or sportsbook spin on some of the latest NFL headlines making headlines. And for that, we have Reed T. Fowler and Pierce Dietrich here with us. Really great to see both of you. So, guys, Deshaun Watson's hearing with the NFL that's set to begin today. Reports are the league is pushing for an indefinite suspension of the Browns' new quarterback. Meanwhile, you got rumors are picking up about Baker Mayfield potentially heading to Seattle in a trade here. So, Reed, like, should Cleveland maybe think twice or rethink trading Baker with like this discipline looming for Watson, or is that relationship past repair?
I think it's past repair for both sides. Look, from a business standpoint, it does make sense for Cleveland to, hold on a little bit because, like, the leverage is on their side. No one wants to acquire Baker Mayfield's contract, right? Carolina doesn't. Seattle really doesn't. It's 18.585 or something along those lines. And that contract is the biggest thing from stopping Baker Mayfield from already have been traded, to be frank. But when you take a look at what the rumors are out there and everything that's happening, Baker said this basically is over. I've moved on. They would have to initiate the reconciliation. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is, like, he's under contract. So it doesn't really matter how he feels. Like, he has to show up. And if he doesn't, he gets fined. We already saw what happened to Le'Veon Bell when he did that. He had a precipitous downfall in production because he missed a year. So I don't think they should think twice. I think they should move him, but it looks like right now that the Browns are in a different spot.
Yeah, Pierce, I'm also seeing some reports that Cleveland seems to be comfortable handing the starting reins to Jacoby Brissett.
Kidding me? Cleveland shouldn't feel comfortable doing anything. They not only need to think twice, they need to think 3 times, 4 times about a lot of the things that they're doing. It probably is beyond repair. You probably can't go back. But moving forward, they really need to start making some better choices because they are not in a good spot where it looks like Jacoby Brissett is going to be your quarterback. I would try, get Dr. Phil in there, try to figure things out with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, he had a rough year last season, but he's had all these different offensive coordinators. He was dealing with injuries. There were injuries all over his team. He hasn't really had the greatest wide receiving core or play calling. I mean, we can make excuses all day for him, but he still has talent and potential. And before I go Jacoby Brissett, I would at least try one more time to repair what's going on with Baker Mayfield. That franchise is a mess. I'm no big fan of OBJ, but we saw when he got out of Cleveland, things seemed to turn around pretty well for him. Probably will turn around for Baker Mayfield. But Cleveland has got to do some soul searching and figure out what they're going to do moving forward. They've got a bunch of problems.
Yeah, it's like he's not going to get a big contract if they keep him and release him, right? They're not going to get a big. He's not going to get a big contract, so they're not even going to get a compensatory pick, right? So they got to do something quick.
Yeah, the quarterback situation, like inside the division with Pittsburgh, guys, seems to be much more stable. Like reports out of minicamp say it's Mitch Trubisky's job to lose. So it looks like, Pittsburgh's going to give him a shot and also going to give their first-round pick, Kenny Pickett, like more time to develop and not just throw him right into the fire there. Reed, you think Pittsburgh's ceiling here would be higher with Pickett under 7?
We don't know what the outcome is. He hasn't played a down of football in the NFL yet. We know what Mitch Trubisky is. Look, he was he was okay right in Chicago. He has draft capital, his top 5 pick. But if you take a look at just rookie quarterbacks starting, there have been a handful that have done well, like Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, Vince Young, Andrew Luck, RG3, right? Mahomes. Like, you start to look at later, like as we get closer, right? And most recently, that these quarterbacks who have started their rookie season, top, first round picks, they've done pretty well, right? But they've been pretty transcendent talents like Lamar Jackson. I would argue that the one team that if they did start a rookie quarterback, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers who could do well, because the last time they did this, and the guys that this guy's the two players that this guy is replacing, Ben Roethlisberger, he won 13 games as a starter his rookie season. So if there's one team out there that can do it, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, Pierce, do you believe Trubisky gives them a much better chance to win right now?
Well, I agree with what Reed said. The ceiling definitely is going to go with the unknown. I'd say the floor is much higher for Trubisky. Yeah, Roethlisberger stepped in and was a good rookie quarterback, but he really stepped into a really solid team. I mean, Tommy Maddox was taking that team almost to Super Bowl, so it really wasn't a hard transition to get Ben Roethlisberger into a pretty well-oiled machine. And then there's definitely some solid weapons on this offensive side, but when I look at Pittsburgh as a whole, I really think that the identity is going to be the defense, high pressure, possibly creating a bunch of turnovers, and a defensive-minded team. And then you let a game manager kind of just give the ball to Davenport about 3 million times, short passing, just don't make any mistakes. I don't know what kind of development you're going to get out of Pickett in the first season if that's going to be the game plan. I think it's best just to preserve him, don't really throw him to the wolves, because Pittsburgh's offensive line wasn't really that great. So if someone's going to start getting smashed, it might as well be Mitch Trubisky and not Pickett. You don't want him to get a little bit of shell shock in his first season. I think ultimately you just go with who has the best floor, and that's going to be Trubisky.
Okay, well, Justin Herbert, we've seen some tremendous progress out of him in the first 2 years. I mean, hell, the guy's plus 1,000 to win MVP up there with Allen, Brady, Mahomes, and Rodgers. He says he hasn't discussed any extension with the Chargers yet after, a great year too. Pierce, should LA here jump on an extension to try and save a few bucks right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't. And obviously they know what they're doing. They've got it worked out behind closed doors. But obviously everyone's going to expect him to have another great season. And he's going to be an MVP favorite because it's exclusively a quarterback-driven award. So we would imagine that to happen. He's got all the same weapons. He's around the same team, the same personnel. They've got chemistry. They're going to keep moving forward. I mean, you look at the AFC West, you've got a lot of new faces, a lot of new players there. And Chargers, though, it's really the same guys just building off of what they had. The offensive line has improved. Their defense probably is going to be a little bit better. Maybe that's going to give them more offensive chances. But the real issue, though, again, is to go back to the AFC West. That's a tough division.
Yep.
And to be an MVP, you got to put the stats. I think you'll get those. But you got to win games. The Raiders are not pushovers. The Chiefs are not pushovers. The Broncos, I mean, they could easily finish fourth. And if you finish fourth in the AFC West, you're not the MVP. Maybe that's what they're banking on, but I would sign him today.
Reed, his price is only going to go up from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pierce the nail on the head there that this division is extremely tough. And look, in his second year, Herbert eclipsed 5,000 yards. He could easily do it this year. But you got to mitigate the turnovers, right? He had too many turnovers last year, but no quarterback has ever had a better first 2 seasons than Herbert, like in history. And if you take a look on DK Sportsbook, not only are his odds for the MVP race pretty high, but he's top in most passing yards at plus 550 over Brady, I believe. So when you put all those things together, and if they can win games, absolutely. Their win total is at 10 as well. So a lot of us in the DK Sportsbook included think that this team is going to be solid, and they've made a lot of offseason moves to make sure that Justin Herbert has the most to succeed, right? Yep. Getting the offensive lineman in the draft the past 2 years.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. The show's coming to a close. We are back tomorrow morning, though, Wednesday edition of The Sweat, 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I believe the slate tonight at 5 o'clock on the DraftKings YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter pages. We'll see you tomorrow.